Rachel Johnson walked into her new school like any other teenager starting fresh, a little nervous, a little uncertain, but hopeful. The school was big, bustling with students from different backgrounds, but Rachel had one thing in common with them. She wanted to fit in. However, fitting in wasn't as easy as she had imagined. Her past, her quiet demeanor, and the shadows of what she had endured before seemed to follow her, as if an invisible weight hung over her shoulders. When she first arrived, no one really paid attention to her. She was just another new face in the crowd. Rachel wasn't the type to stand out. She was quiet, reserved, and kept to herself. She stayed at the back of classrooms, didn't raise her hand often, and walked the hallways with her eyes fixed on the floor. But Rachel's silence wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a shield she had perfected over the years, a shield she had used to protect herself from the pain of the past. But not everyone saw her this way. At the top of the social ladder were three girls who ran the school: Nina, Sarah, and Emily. They were popular, confident, and known for their ruthless behavior. They had everything: beauty, power, and influence. And they weren't afraid to use it to get what they wanted. For them, bullying wasn't just a way to put others down. It was a means of establishing dominance. And when they saw Rachel, the quiet new girl, they saw an opportunity to exercise their power. At first, Rachel tried to avoid them. She stayed out of their way, never said anything, and hoped that maybe they would leave her alone. But that didn't last long. Nina, Sarah, and Emily were relentless. They would whisper about her behind her back, make snide remarks in class, and find ways to humiliate her in front of others. It started with small things, comments about her clothes, her hair, or how she didn't fit in. But over time, their taunts grew crueler. One day, during lunch, Rachel was sitting alone at the back of the cafeteria, eating her food in silence, when she heard the familiar sound of footsteps approaching. Before she could react, Nina stood in front of her, blocking her view. "Hey, Rachel," Nina said, her voice dripping with mockery. "What's it like being the new girl? I bet you don't have any friends, do you?" Rachel didn't say anything. She just stared at her plate, hoping the moment would pass. But Nina wasn't done. She reached over and grabbed Rachel's sandwich, pulling it out of her hands. "I don't think this belongs to you," Nina said, laughing. Rachel felt her face flush with embarrassment, but she still said nothing. She wasn't sure how to respond, or if it was worth the trouble to fight back. The other students in the cafeteria snickered, watching the scene unfold, but Rachel's silence only encouraged Nina to continue. "Why don't you just go back to where you came from?" Sarah chimed in, standing beside Nina. "You don't belong here." Rachel's heart raced in her chest, but she didn't react. She couldn't. She was too afraid. But deep down, a quiet voice inside her told her that this couldn't go on. She couldn't let them treat her like this forever. That night, Rachel lay awake in her bed, replaying the events of the day in her mind. She had spent years running from the pain of bullying, pretending it didn't bother her. But now, in this new school, the bullying was becoming too much. She thought about her childhood, about her father, who had taught her some self-defense techniques. At the time, she hadn't cared much for them. They had seemed unnecessary, a waste of time. But now, she realized that those lessons could be the key to standing up for herself. Her father had taught her discipline, strength, and how to fight, not just with fists, but with her mind. It was time to put those lessons to use. The next day after school, Rachel went straight to a local gym that offered martial arts classes. She signed up for lessons, determined to become stronger, both physically and mentally. It wasn't just about defending herself. It was about taking control of her life. She spent hours training, learning the discipline it took to control her emotions and reactions. Each punch, each kick, each move built her confidence and prepared her for what was to come. Rachel was no longer the quiet girl who let things slide. She was becoming a fighter. Weeks passed and Rachel grew stronger. Her body had changed. She was leaner, more agile, but more importantly, she had become more confident. Her movements were sharper, more purposeful, and her mind was clear. She had come to understand that her true strength wasn't just physical. It was mental and emotional as well. And she was ready to face Nina, Sarah, and Emily.